Hi folks, how you doing? This is the Aaron Michael Show, alternative Wisconsin sports media. We are not biased, we are not afraid, and we do not talk down to frustrated Wisconsin sports fans. Email address, aaronmichaelshow@gmail.com if you want to get a hold of the program. You can also follow along on Twitter at Wisconsin Aaron. So Packers and Cowboys tomorrow in Dallas. And I'll start off by saying this. If you can't run the ball and you can't stop the run, you're not going to win games in the National Football League. It's why the Packers lost on Thursday to the Eagles. And of course, Wentz was the best quarterback that they've had to face to this point. But they couldn't run the ball and they couldn't stop it. And it got especially bad and ugly after Blaga had to leave the game. But after the game, everyone wanted to talk about how Matt LaFleur didn't run the ball when they had 4 chances down at the 1-yard line. He chose to pass all 4 times. And I don't blame him for doing that. That's what I would have done. I completely understand why he didn't attempt to run. At that point in the game, the Packers were losing yards when they ran it. And not to mention that you have the billion-dollar man at quarterback. You should be able to pick up 1 yard on 4 passing attempts, don't you think? Though I will say this, while I'm fine with them not running the football there, and I understand why they didn't do it, it is upsetting to me that they didn't believe that they could run it. I mean, if you can't get 1 yard in 4 rushing attempts, or you don't think that you can, something is horribly, horribly wrong. If you run it 4 times from the 1-yard line, that means that you need to average getting less than 1 foot per attempt to get into the end zone. And they didn't think that they could pull that off. And I'm inclined to agree with that. And then stopping the run by the Packer defense wasn't any better. At any rate, if this doesn't get fixed against the Cowboys, it's going to be a long day at the office for Green Bay. And the good news is this. When a team struggles to stop the run like the Packers have the last few weeks, it seems like it's an easier fix for a defense to improve their run defense than it is to improve a pass defense. If you don't have a good secondary, there isn't much you can do to stop the pass. We saw that for years with the Packers under Dom Capers. It just never got better. And there have been a lot of Packer teams, or times in the past, just you think about this, and you can recall some for yourself. There have been a lot of times over the years for the Packers where they have struggled to stop the run. And you have a big opponent coming up the next week, like Adrian Peterson. And you sit back and you say, oh man, Adrian Peterson is going to run us over. He's going to go for 180, 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then what happens? They end up being shut down for like 65 yards and really make no impact on the game. And how many times have we seen that happen over the years? It seems like it happens frequently, actually. And that's not the same story for the pass defense when that struggles. But I'll say this. With the confidence that I have in Mike Pettin, I think that the Packers will do an okay job of stopping Elliott. Obviously, the run defense has been a problem to this point in the season, and it all came to a head where it was undeniable last week in the loss. A lot of people will ignore things when the team's winning. Well, the run defense, they gave up some yardage to Dalvin Cook and the Vikings, and then, the little guy, Lindsey, from the Broncos, he kind of ran over us too, and we had trouble stopping them. But look, let's ignore it. We're winning. When you lose, you're forced to acknowledge those problems as a media, as a fan base. And so it all came to a head where it was undeniable last week after the loss that the Packers have had trouble stopping the run. So with that, I have faith in Pettin, and the extra emphasis put in on stopping Elliott this week, I think they'll do a good job of keeping him at bay. I really do. And the other thing that helps too is this. After the game on Sunday, LaFleur came out and said, hey, we got to get better at stopping the run. Our defense isn't good enough. If we don't fix this, it will be the blueprint for teams on how to beat us. And is that not refreshing to hear after so many years of Mike McCarthy? Because you know damn well what McCarthy would have said about that poor performance on Thursday night, about the Packer run defense. He'd come out after the game and he'd have one of his zinger statements. Oh, hell, yeah, I think we got one of the best, most physical run defenses in the NFL. That's what we do. That's what we're about here in Green Bay. That's Packer football. What do you do? Trying to just write the one negative story this week? That run defense, that's the backbone of our team. He'd come out with some asinine statement like that. At this point, the point is, McCarthy would not acknowledge problems. That's why nothing ever got fixed. At least with LaFleur, there's hope that it'll be resolved. And, really, what is going to decide whether or not Matt LaFleur is a good NFL head coach? One of the big marks that you have to hit to be successful is to be able to fix problems. And I'll give it time. I'll give this Packer run defense time. I'll give LaFleur time to fix problems. But whether or not LaFleur is able to fix the run defense, that's going to be a good benchmark of where he is as a head coach. If he's good or not. If he's able to adjust or not. He's got it down, knowing and acknowledging the problem, which may be a small thing to some of you, but after years of McCarthy where he wouldn't even acknowledge the problem existed, that's a big step for Packers. Don't you think? But he's got that part down. He'll acknowledge the problem, that it exists, but now, does the problem get fixed? Or does it persist into the future? That determines, for a big part, of what I think as LaFleur as a coach. And obviously there's more that goes into it than just the run defense, but his ability to either fix or not fix this run defense will be indicative of where he's at. So Davante Adams out of the game tomorrow. It's not a good thing. Obviously not good by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, especially if the Packers struggle to run the ball like they did last week. They're going to be in big trouble. And really, we're looking at two issues here with Adams out of the game. Issue number one, and we'll break both of these down in a little bit more detail, but issue one, no one else has emerged behind Adams. Issue two, Aaron Rodgers obviously doesn't trust anyone else. And those two things are probably related and most likely go hand in hand. Remember back to training camp, one of the position battles, if you will, was the number 2 receiver position. Was it going to be MVS, Geronimo Allison? And neither of them have stepped up and taken any sort of control. Both guys have had some good moments, and both have had some letdowns. But neither of them have established themselves behind Adams. So who do you turn to? Well, if you're Aaron Rodgers, he probably turns to no one, to be honest with you. You can have any opinion on Aaron Rodgers at this point in his career that you want, but one thing is for certain. One thing that cannot be argued is that he will not throw the ball to receivers that he does not trust. And right now, I don't think he really trusts anyone except for Adams. And I think the offense is going to look pretty disjointed tomorrow. Because I don't think that Rodgers feels like he's comfortable enough with anyone out there to throw him the ball. And no one's emerged behind Adams. I mean, in all honesty, it might be Mercedes Lewis. It hasn't been Jimmy Graham. It hasn't been any of the receivers. The running backs have been more involved in the passing game than under McCarthy, but they haven't been involved enough to start seriously looking at them to who are you going to turn to in Adams' absence. But getting the ball to the running backs would probably be a good idea. At any rate, I think Rodgers is going to do a lot of hanging onto the ball, a lot of scramble drills, a lot of running of his own tomorrow, because I just don't think that he trusts any of these guys to throw it to. And in all honesty, he should have more trust in these receivers. I mean, we're talking about the billion-dollar guy here. Why is it that Adams being... this is a question that I have to ask. I would love an answer to this. For Packer fans to actually think about it and give an honest answer, why is it that Adams being out, with no other major injuries on the offensive side of the ball, I mean in the passing game, you can have Jamal Williams out, whatever, but with no other major issues on the offense, why is it that Adams being out makes people think that the Packer offense is going to be completely crippled? You mean to tell me that the billion-dollar quarterback needs a wide receiver group like Jennings, Jordy Nelson, Cobb, Driver, Jermichael Finley? All those guys together, he needs them to succeed? He doesn't need that, or he shouldn't need that. He needs to trust his receivers. Now, how many years did Brett Favre have the wide receiver talent that Rodgers has generally had? I mean, Favre probably had his most talent towards the beginning of his career and in the mid-90s, but he went through years with Bill Schroeder being, I'm in Brewer season, with Bill Schrader being his number one target. And I pulled a random season out of a little bit later portion of Brett Favre's career, about where Rodgers is right now. 2004 Packers. Okay, let me give you this one. They went 10-6. Favre threw for 4,088 yards. His receivers? Javon Walker, Donald Driver, Bubba Franks, Robert Ferguson, Antonio Chapman, David Martin, Ben Steele, Andre Thurman. Is that better than what Rodgers has had? Is it better than what Rodgers has right now? Javon Walker was pretty good. Driver obviously was what he was. But overall, is that better than what Rodgers has had? Does Rodgers really need 2 or 3 number one receivers to be effective? Why does Rodgers need all this help? And I have the answer for you to this question. He just needs to go out there. He needs to play and trust his receivers. Adams being out should not be worrisome that it's going to completely cripple this offense, especially when you have the billion-dollar quarterback. I mean, you can talk all you want about it's time for the young guys to step up and make plays, and you can ask me all day long, who's going to step up? Who is it going to be behind Adams? But none of that matters if Rodgers isn't going to trust them. Oh, yes, I almost forgot. I have to share this with you again. I mentioned it after the Brewers' loss in the wild card game to the Nationals. That game was a very teachable moment for Wisconsin sports fans, Packer fans in particular. For the Brewers, first off, think back to this season when things were not going well, when the Brewers were losing games, not looking good. What was the problem? Poor bullpen pitching, led by Josh Hader, and stupid and inexcusable mistakes on defense. Major problems for a large chunk of the season. And, ladies and gentlemen, what did the Brewers in on Tuesday night? Poor pitching by Hader and an inexcusable error by Trent Grisham. So the important part, the teachable moment, as I say. How do we apply this? This is where Packer fans, your ears should perk up. This is why it matters how things look during the regular season. This is why it matters how Aaron Rodgers looks. This is why it matters when the defense plays poorly. Because if problems don't get fixed from the regular season, they're going to come back and they're going to bite you in the playoffs. And, a lot of people like to say, stop being so negative. Just enjoy a win. A win is a win. Just enjoy it and stop being such a downer. Equally as important, though, to wins is how you look. Because if you allow problems to linger or you don't fix the issues that you have, when you hit the playoffs, those issues are going to come back and they're going to bite you and they're going to knock you out of the playoffs. Case in point was Tuesday night. The Brewers lose due to issues that they had all year and never got corrected. So Packer fans, yes, it does matter how Rodgers looks, how the defense looks. Those things do matter. If they don't matter, why are you watching the game? Why don't you just check out the final score after it's over, look it up on Google, go out and do some yard work? How can you not be invested in how the team looks during the regular season? Because that stuff matters. Okay, you think back, I've used this example before and I'll use it again. Excuse me. 2011, the year after the Packers win the Super Bowl, they go 15-1. And I'm sitting there watching that season. And I'm saying, okay, well, the Packers are 15-1. Their offense was record-setting. They were doing a great job on offense. They're putting up tons of yards, tons of points. Nobody could stop them. They had the one hiccup game at Kansas City where they lost. But outside of that, they were 15-1. But I'm sitting there watching that team, and I said, they're not going to go anywhere in the playoffs because their pass defense was so bad. They were giving up huge amounts of yardage. Now, it didn't matter in the regular season because the Packer offense was just blowing people away. But you watch it and you have to, again, I tell you this, I'm like a broken record, but I have to keep saying it. You have to be able to project into the future and how it's going to affect your team in the playoffs if you have problems that don't get resolved. Problems from the regular season not resolved are going to result in an early departure from the playoffs. So I'm watching this Packer team in 2011. Great offense, they're blowing by everyone. But the defense, I can't get past this. The defense just keeps giving up huge yardage to average quarterbacks, to backup quarterbacks, and we can't stop a nosebleed as far as the passing game goes. And I said, they're not going to go anywhere in the playoffs. They're going to get to the playoffs, and the offense isn't going to be enough because once you hit the playoffs, you have to have everything working for you if you want to continue on. And lo and behold, they get to the playoffs, they end up losing. And their pass defense that was not good all season comes back and it bites them. So regular season does matter. And it's something that has to be talked about. It's something that has to be addressed. And it's something that has to improve during the regular season. Because you're not just going to get to the postseason and if you've had an issue all season long, you're not just going to magically snap your fingers, push a button, and say, wow, everything is good now. We're going to turn it on now that we're in the playoffs. It doesn't work that way. At some point, yeah, you can say, well, enjoy the win. But at some point, if your problems don't get fixed, it's going to come back and bite you. And Packer fans should be looking, as should Brewer fans, by the way. This is a completely different topic for the Brewers. But Packer fans, don't be satisfied with just getting wins in the regular season. Don't be satisfied with making it to the playoffs. You got the billion-dollar man at quarterback. You've went all in with a new coaching staff to try to win a Super Bowl. You're signing free agents to win a Super Bowl. That's what these moves are made for, to win a Super Bowl. Don't be satisfied with getting, oh, well, hell, we beat the Vikings, so yeah, we've had a successful season. No. The playoffs don't matter. Super Bowl is what matters. Same thing for the Brewers, different topic. Brewer fans, don't be satisfied with making it to the playoffs. Don't be satisfied with this team making it to the wild card, a one-game playoff, and losing, and say, wow, we had a great year. Why? Why did you have a good year? Oh, wow, because this is better than the 2002 Brewers. That's no standard. The point of an NFL season or a Major League Baseball season or any professional sports season is to win the championship. And if you're not doing that, you're coming up short of what the goal of your season is. So don't be satisfied with that. As fans, you can't be complacent. You can't be satisfied with that. And you sure as heck cannot allow ownership groups to know that you're satisfied with that. You can't do that. Not if you care about winning a Super Bowl. Not if you care about winning a World Series. You have to demand more than that. Oh, how does one demand that? The pocketbook. You as fans, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you've ever thought through this or not, but this is absolutely true. Okay? A fan base has a lot of control over their team. They are the ones who control how much money is or is not going to the owner. Something that you should keep in mind. All right, that's going to do it for today's show. As always, fan mail can be sent to aaronmichaelshow@gmail.com. Also, make sure that you follow along on Twitter. We have a good time there. Some people hate me, but that's okay too. Doesn't really bother me. But follow along. It's a good time. We'll talk during Packer games. Going to do a video a little bit later tonight answering some of your Packer questions off of Twitter. And I also did a very risky thing. Took a tremendous risk tonight. I put up a poll on Twitter letting the great people of Wisconsin decide on the future of my facial hair. So As I look at the poll right now, there's 20 minutes left to vote on it. I could either keep it the same, clean shave it off, have a goatee, or have a mustache. And it looks like right now I'll be preparing myself to give myself a mustache. So you can have fun if you follow along on Twitter. And you can yell at me too. You can do the whole ball of wax. It'll be a good time. But yes, Twitter, at Wisconsin Aaron. I don't remember if I said that or not. We're going to go. I'll make a Packer prediction tomorrow morning on Twitter. Let you know what I think, Packers and Cowboys. Stay tuned for that and more of the Aaron Michaels Show. Thank you for listening tonight. This is the Aaron Michaels Show.